Okay everyone, this is video for card number 2. This one is a little bit more intricate but not really difficult. It has a belly band which slides off, and it has an inside as well. So it's a fun fold. Okay, so in your packet, you're going to have your instruction sheet, and that instruction sheet is going to tell you all the pieces of paper and what sizes you're going to need them. So I'm going to put that aside. We're going to refer to that. You're going to need your watercolor painters. You're going to be using ink refill. We're going to be using Highland Heather, Lost Lagoon, and Daffodil Delight. And in your packet, and we're going to be using the Thoughtful Wishes stamp set and the Thoughtful Wishes dies. So we're also going to be using the postage dies. So in your packet, now that you've already done card 1, card 2 should be everything in front of the Lost Lagoon paper. But just so you know what you should have 2 envelopes that have nothing in them. You should have 2 pieces of designer paper. They're probably different, don't panic. You should have 1.5 sheets of white, and you should have a whole sheet of Lost Lagoon. All right, so we're going to start first with the Lost Lagoon, and we're going to create the card base. So if you look at your instructions, what I'm going to tell you is that when you open this card all the way up, it is a 5.5 by 11. Okay, so you're going to have 2 pieces of Lost Lagoon in your package. I apologize, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be leaving that 11-inch length, and you're going to be cutting the width to 5.5 inches. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut that. All right, and then if you look at your paper, it says score at 1 1/4 and 3 3/8 inches on both sides of the 11. So here's what I mean by that. This is the 11-inch side, so I'm turning it. I am going to score at 1 1/4 and 3 1 2/3. Score again. Then I am going to flip it, and I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. So I'm going to do at 1 1/4 and 3 1 2/3. Scoring again. So when you fold this up, you're going to fold in and fold back. You're going to fold in and you're going to fold back. And that's going to give you your fun fold card. Okay, I'm going to put that card base aside, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my white cardstocks, and I should have 1.5 pieces. I'm going to keep this half piece put aside for just a moment, because I'm going to use that half piece for cutting out these 2 pieces, which are coming from the Thoughtful Wishes dies. So it's this one right here. You're going to need to cut 2 of those, and you're going to need to cut 2 of the postage stamps, which I will retrieve momentarily, so you'll have enough room on this half sheet of paper to do all those cutouts. So I'm going to set that aside for a second, and the next thing I'm going to go to is my full sheet of white. To create my belly bands, I want, you're going to see right down here, belly band. I need 2 strips that are 1 inch by 11 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off my 1 inch by 11 inch. And I'm going to do that a second time, because remember, I'm making 2 cards. So I'm going to do that again, and that is going to be my belly bands. So I'm going to put those aside. The next thing I'm going to cut out of this piece of paper is I need 2 pieces for the inside of the card. So on your directions, layer inside, they need to be 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. So this is currently greater than 6 inches. So I'm going to cut my 5 1/4, and then I'm going to cut my 4 inches. So 1, 2, because I have 2 cards that I'm making. So these pieces are going to be leftover pieces, which is great because if you mess up die cutting your other pieces, you've got some extra. So that is my white cardstock. So I'm going to set that aside. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my designer paper, one piece of it. Now I want you to keep in mind when this card is folded, you're going to see that I cut the 2 strips so that they would match up on either side, and then the other ones I really didn't care about because you're not really going to see those. So your designer paper, layer of designer paper, you need 2 pieces that are 1 3/4 by 5 1/4, and then you need 2 pieces that are 1 by 5 1/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my actually, I'm going to do 1 piece that's 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my paper to 5 1/4. Your biggest decision is, do I cut this paper so that I have more sky and less scenery, or do I cut it the other way so that I have more scenery and less sky? I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to cut this piece of designer paper all the way across at 5 1/4. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to cut, just so that the pieces all go in order, I'm going to contradict what I said earlier. I'm going to cut this piece first, then I'm going to cut this piece, then I'm going to cut this one, and then I'm going to cut that one, and I'm going to have a piece left over. So my first piece needs to be 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to do my 1 3/4, which if I pull my card base back out, my 1 3/4 is going to go right here by 5 1/4. And then remember, this is open, so now I'm going to cut the strip that goes there. I'm going to continue on this same piece of paper. So I need 1 by 5 3/4 for that piece. And you know what I'm also going to do, guys, while I have this, I'm going to pull this back out. I'm going to take this 1 3/4 that we cut just a moment ago, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that so I don't get confused as to what pieces go where. So that's going to go there with a 1/4 inch border all the way around. Then remember, this flap is open. Now I've cut this 1 inch by 5 1/4. I need to get a new glue out. There we go. And that is going to go on this piece. So I'm continuing my pattern. Okay, now I'm cutting this one, which is also 1 inch by 5 1/4. So I'm going to continue with my patterned paper, and then I'm going to glue that down so that they will match up. I promise when I do the next video, I will have a new container of glue out. Okay, let's try some tape runner instead, because I ain't got time for that. So let's put that one on. 1 by 5 1/4. Okay, so see, now the scenery continues, and now I'm going to cut this last piece, which is 1 3/4 by the 5 1/4. So I'm going to have this strip left over, and this strip is actually going to go on the inside layer. So while I am gluing things, I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on this one. Maybe. And I'm going to glue that down. So now my card front is done. I'm not going to glue this strip yet because I'm going to be doing a technique on the inside, and then I will go ahead and glue this on the inside. So let me get set up for the next phase. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is some die cutting. So I'm going to get that half sheet of white back out. I'm going to be cutting 2 of these lacy pieces that are right here from the white cardstock. And I'm going to be using my postage dies, and I am going to cut 2 of these out also. So let's do that now. Okay, now we're going to be going into our technique phase. You're going to need your 2 pieces that you cut out with the lacy floral piece. You're going to need your 2 postage stamps, and you're going to need the 2 interiors of your card. So, and you're also going to need your watercolor painters, and they're going to need to be filled with water. I have found that my favorite one to use is this one here for this particular technique, and I'll show you why. Okay, so we're going to be using ink refills. So I am going to put my Highland Heather purple on the top. I'm using my glass mat. This is important. You need to use a glass mat. So I did a dab of my purple. I'm going to put the yellow over here, a dab of that. And then I'm going to put a dab of the Lost Lagoon over here. Now you're also going to need a piece of scrap paper to clean your brush with after, so I'll show you that. But the first thing we're going to do is, so this piece, I did the Lost Lagoon on it. And you're going to, on the side of your aqua painter, it says push. So you're going to pull a little bit of this out, and you're going to squeeze water and kind of make like a thinned out version of that color. And what I did was I randomly used my aqua painter and randomly colored some of it to kind of make it kind of marbly, and I left some of it white on purpose, and it can be as light or as dark as you want. And then I am going to set it aside to be used later. That's about all the color I want on it. I want to leave some white on it. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. On the postage, we're going to and I've got stuff everywhere, so keep your wipe handy, and you want to get the excess up. I don't want to wipe it all up yet because I'm going to still need that Lost Lagoon. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take that Lost Lagoon, and that's going to go like on the bottom third. Hopefully you can see this. On the bottom third, and again, it's watered down, of this postage stamp. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. And then on the inside of the card, you'll remember I kind of had the same thing. So I'm just going to put a little swipe of the Lost Lagoon in the bottom of the inside card piece. Okay, so, and then I'm going to be done with the Lost Lagoon. So as you can see, it doesn't take very much ink. So just so I don't get that everywhere, I'm going to take my cleaning cloth and I'm going to wipe up all the Lost Lagoon. So it's now on that cleanup cloth. And I'm going to take my scrap paper and I'm going to squeeze and go back and forth until the brush comes out clean. I don't want to see any more Lost Lagoon because I don't want to mix my colors. So it may take a minute because I've been using it a lot. But now I can see that it's coming out clear. So now I'm ready for my second color. So now I'm going to work with my yellow, my daffodil. I'm going to pull some of that out. I'm going to squeeze water into it so I can lighten it up. And on the postage stamp, I'm going to do like 1/3 of it with some daffodil. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to set it aside. I didn't put the daffodil on the inside, but if you wanted to, like I see I have an empty space here. So I think I might put a little bit of the daffodil there. Okay, and then I got to do the same thing. I need to clean up my mess so I don't get it all over my card. I'm using my scrubby mat thing. And then I'm going to clean my brush by going back and forth, squeezing a little bit of water out so that I can get the yellow off of my brush. This is just a piece of computer paper, scrap computer paper. Now, your brush may be a little bit stained. I actually have some cardstock strips over here too, so I may use that to clean my watercolor brush with. Yeah, because I still got a lot of yellow there. So I need to squeeze some water out. Your grid sheet is a good place to do this, but then you're going to need a new grid sheet. All right, so that's pretty clean. And now I'm going to work with my last color, which is my Highland Heather. So I need to squeeze water into it to get it watered down. Remember, I'm trying to do like a watercolor. If I want more color, I can just pull some more in. And then I'm going to do the top third of my, I want that one to be a little darker, so I'm going to use all of it. Okay. I'm going to put my watercolor Highland Heather on there. And then I'm going to let that sit and dry. And I'm going to put a little swath on my inside piece. And again, that doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. So one more cleanup of the brush, which is squeezing some water, getting it out clear. I'm making a mess. I'm folding my paper. There we go. And as I squeeze it, I still got some purple. So I'm going to squeeze it again. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to put the cover back on my painter. I'm going to clean this purple up off of my mat. I'm done with that. And now I'm ready. I'm going to put all my ink refills aside because I'm all set with those as well. So now that I'm happy with all my coloring, I need to make sure that it's dry. So you can either use a heat tool or you can let it sit and dry. So what I'm going to do, we're going to be using the Thoughtful Wishes stamps. Particularly, we're going to use this image and we're going to use this image. So I'm going to use my Tuxedo black ink. On the inside, I am putting my image of the open poppies. So that's going to be on the inside of the card. I'm stamping over that watercolor. And then on the outside, I'm using the larger image. So I'm going to ink that up. And it's okay, the whole thing doesn't fit. I'm going to fit as much of it as I can. There it is. And again, I'm using this glass mat because it cleans so easily. I can take this piece off. I can clean my mat nice and fresh. And now I have these pieces that are all colored and stamped. This one's colored as well. It's now time for final assembly. So the inside of the card, I told you we were holding this piece left over. So I'm going to go ahead. I did get a new tube of glue out. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that. And I'm going to put this little strip that I had left over on the inside edge of my project. Okay. And then I'm going to get my card base back out that we already started decorating. And I'm going to adhere the inside to the card. 1/4-inch border all the way around. There it is. So now I want to create my belly band. So I'm going to take this 1-inch by 11-inch strip that we had. I want my seam to be in the back, because actually I want it to be in the front because we're not going to see it. So I am going to try to center this 11-inch strip into my card base here. I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to fold it over again. So you're going to see we have a seam there in the front. And I'm going to adhere so that my belly band stays together. Okay. And then I'm going to take my floral piece, you can either put it on an angle like this or an angle like this. I'm going to put it this way because my seam is over here. So I am just going to put a couple of little dabs of glue on the back of this piece, because most of this is just going to kind of be freewheeling, I guess I would say. So I'm going to put that like this. I don't want it to stick over the edge of the card because I want it to be able to fit in the envelope. So you need to be careful on how you adhere that. Okay. And then this piece is going to adhere to the front of that. So I'm only going to put a little bit of adhesive in the middle of this. And I'm going to go ahead and squish that down, because all of that needs to be stuck to the belly band. And voila, you now have your fun fold card. Your belly band will slide off, maybe, if I push it all the way. And you'll have your fun fold card that you have now watercolor painted all on your own. Thanks for doing card number 2.